All right, today I want to talk about how do you cast vision to your team about where you want to go without overwhelming them. How do you paint a picture of opportunity and growing and evolving, but not flipping your team out or overwhelming them with how we're going to get there. And so last week we had a board meeting here at Service Express, and one of our independent board members, we were discussing an opportunity here at Service Express and on how to really accelerate an area that we were working on. And he did a great job of this. And what he did is he painted this big picture of what's possible and where we could go at Service Express. But what really resonated with me is that he painted that big picture, and as you're listening to him, you're both getting excited and you're getting a little bit like overwhelmed, like, oh my gosh, how do we get there? And what he did is he was talking through it as he went to the big picture, and then he walked it back to, but here's where we're at today, and here's some of the things we need to do to build on that. And we're doing great now, but here's what's possible. And so I think sometimes as leaders of teams, this is where we miss and can overwhelm our teams, is we paint this big picture, this big vision of where we want to go, right? And it's way up here. And people are excited about it, but yet you're sort of like, but how do we get there from where we're at? And so if we never walk them back through the steps to where we're at now, right here, right? And how do we execute? How do we execute to get here? I think that's where we can lose them. And so, he did a great job of casting this, bringing it down, saying things are great right now, and we're going to build this. And I think the phrase used was, we got to crawl, walk, and then run, and we'll get here, and even kind of put a time frame around it, so got everybody kind of thinking through, like, this doesn't have to be done tomorrow. This is where we're going to build and go to. And it was interesting, the next day I had a meeting with one of my leaders that was in the board meeting at the time, and this affects his department. That's what we were talking about. And as he sat down, I said, quite a day yesterday. And I said, what my comment was, so are you overwhelmed or excited? And he looked at me with a big smile, and he's like, oh, I'm excited. And I think the excitement is the difference between casting a vision and just leaving it there with your team and never walking through this part. That's where you can get overwhelmed. But when you bring it down to here's where we're at now and here's how we're going to get there, I think that's where excitement comes in. And I've noticed sometimes with leaders, and I've done this, where I've casted just the big vision, and you see these big eyeballs looking at me, and I leave the room all fired up, and they're like, I'm not really sure where to go from here, Another term we use for that sometimes is called skip thinking, which is, 1, 2, 3, 10. The leader's got it all in his mind here, and he explains the first 3 steps, but then skips right to the end because he's been working on it and figuring it out. Where with your team, this is where you go 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So you have to avoid skip thinking and have to break it down for them. Because again, if you don't, I think that's where you can lose them. The other thing, though, the opposite to this, and I've seen this happen too, is as leaders, if all we do is talk about down here in the execution part of it, and we never cast this vision, man, this turns into a grind. This turns into not exciting, and are we making any progress or what's happening? And so you also can't be that leader who's really strong on execution and just stay down here and never cast the vision, right? So leaders, I know this is challenging, right? This is called communication, and communication, it's in my top 5 strengths. I get excited about it, gives me energy. Doesn't mean I'm the best at it. I think we do really well with it at Service Express, but I also think, as I tell everybody here, you can never do it good enough, and you can never say it enough. I'm CEO. I really need to be CRO too, which is Chief Repeating Officer. You need to say it multiple times, right? And so this is the balance. Cast the vision, but then walk them back to where you're at now, and then how do we get there? And that's where I think the magic is, and that's the difference between energizing your team and getting them galvanized to go forward or overwhelming them. So keep this in mind, test it out with the things that you're working on, and I'd love to hear a comment from anybody on this. Thanks, and have a great day.